Inside this edition of the Bills Pod, I can't stop loving discussions about TJ Sanders, and I blather on about why Spencer Brown and Dion Dawkins are ranked 5th and 6th on my list of most important Buffalo Bills. I'm Nick from New York, your friendly neighborhood unlicensed football therapist, and I believe in the superior interior of the Bills. We'll always defend those who bookend for the Bills. I posted on Twitter earlier this week that in my last episode, the one all about TJ Sanders and why I think he's the 4th most important Buffalo Bill as we look forward to the 2025-26 season, I might have invented a statistic I shared with you, my loyal podcast streamer who is helping me rise to the top of the podcast charts and put food on my family's table. And so I wanted to apologize for that. I'm sorry. I'm sorry that I said that TJ Sanders recorded a pressure once in every 24 snaps, just a hair behind Kenneth Grant's pressure frequency, which saw him produce a pressure once every 23 snaps. Again, the stat I just cited is not true. I don't think, anyway. At least I can't find now where I found that stat then. So I think I either misread some other stat or had a really vivid dream and wrote something down on the notepad I keep on my bedside table that I misinterpreted the next day. Like flaming globes, Sigmund! Like flaming globes! But fortunately for me, fortunately for you, fortunately for us, there are plenty of stats, real stats, verifiable stats from the 2024 collegiate season that support my confidence in TJ Sanders having the potential to be productive and a very important Buffalo Bill as a rookie. I've also compiled a suite of stats here that will highlight just what a tremendous value pick TJ Sanders was by comparing him to defensive tackles taken ahead of him in the 2025 NFL Draft. And so, without further ado, here are those supporting stats. TJ Sanders' 2024 win rate, according to PFF, on true pass sets was 21.4%, and he recorded 8 quarterback hits. Mason Graham's 2024 win rate on true pass sets was 21.5%, ever so slightly higher than Sanders, and Graham also recorded 8 QB hits. Graham was the first defensive tackle off the board in the 2025 NFL Draft, selected 5th overall by Cleveland, 36 spots ahead of TJ Sanders. TJ Sanders' PFF pass rush grade in 2024 was 81.9. Walter Nolan's PFF pass rush grade in 2024 was 75.0. Nolan was the 2nd defensive tackle off the board in the 2025 NFL Draft, selected 16th overall by Arizona, 25 spots ahead of TJ Sanders. TJ Sanders' PRP score in 2024 was 14.8, and his missed tackle percentage was 11.3%. Derek Harmon's PRP score in 2024 was 14.5, and his missed tackle percentage was a whopping and worrying 26.7%. Harmon was the 3rd defensive tackle off the board in the 2025 NFL Draft, selected 21st overall by Pittsburgh, 20 spots ahead of TJ Sanders. A PRP score, by the way, is a formula developed by our buddies at Pro Football Focus, which combines sacks, hurries, and hits, wherein hurries and hits are worth 3/4 of a point, and sacks are worth a full point, then divides that sum by the total number of pure pass rush sets a player saw, and then multiplies by 100. So basically, how frequently does a player generate a sack, a hurry, or a quarterback hit when he's pass rushing? And that PRP score of 14.8 that Sanders recorded was best of any defensive tackle in the 2025 draft outside of Omar Norman Lott, the prospect out of Tennessee, who was selected 63rd by the, Kansas City Chiefs. But Omar Norman Lott notched his PRP score of 20.0 while playing just about half as many passing downs as TJ Sanders. And so not only is his sample size significantly smaller and so more susceptible to outliers inflating the score, but it's an indicator that he is a specialist who is kept fresh for obvious passing downs while Sanders is a 3-down player. And so those are some stats that enable me to maintain my view from last episode that TJ Sanders has about as good a chance as any defensive tackle from this 2025 draft class to make an impact during his rookie season. And it would, by the way, be by no means out of the ordinary for the Bills to have drafted a defensive tackle who's ready to play significant snaps and produce well as a rookie. Ed Oliver did just that after being selected 9th overall in 2019. As a rookie, Ed Oliver played 556 defensive snaps and recorded 5 sacks, 43 total tackles, and 5 tackles for loss. And so, even though I've already spent an entire prior episode talking about why I have high hopes and expectations for TJ Sanders this year, even while acknowledging that he is a rookie, I'm going to double down on those hopes and expectations by offering and defending an admittedly aggressive prediction for what he and Ed Oliver can produce as co-pilots on the defensive interior this upcoming season. Ready for a little warm take? How about a little warm take music, maestro? I predict that TJ Sanders and Ed Oliver will combine to play 1,200 snaps, will combine for 14.5 sacks, 81 total tackles, and 18 tackles for loss. Thank you, Maestro. Oliver's rookie year production: 556 snaps, 5 sacks, 43 tackles, and 5 tackles for loss. A very good rookie year, indeed, but not one that even garnered Oliver a single Defensive Rookie of the Year vote. And so, not really an outlandish set of targets. And so, if we were to predict something similar from Sanders' rookie season, I'd be comfortable being called aggressive, but I think I'd stop you short of calling me crazy. I think TJ Sanders could register a rookie season that sees him log over 500 snaps, bring down the quarterback 4 or 5 times, record 40 or so total tackles, and record 4 or 5 tackles for loss. As for what I might predict for Ed, as he co-pilots an interior alongside Sanders, I would again be fine with you calling me aggressive, but I'd stop you short of calling me crazy if I suggested that Ed Oliver could put up numbers similar to those from his 2023 season. In 2023, Ed Oliver recorded 9.5 sacks, 51 total tackles, and 14 tackles for loss. If we did the super simple arithmetic and just smushed Ed's rookie season, numbers that I think are fair enough to use as targets for Sanders' rookie season, with his best season, we come out with 14.5 sacks, 94 total tackles, and 19 tackles for loss. I'm predicting 14.5, 81, and 18. Aggressive. Not crazy, though. And particularly uncrazy, why it's something a perfectly sane person would do. If you have confidence that Maxwell Hairston is going to be able to move quarterbacks off their first read with greater frequency than Rasul Douglas did last season. And particularly uncrazy, if you believe me, Nick from New York, when I say over and over in episode after episode that Matt Milano is primed to return to his 2022 All-Pro 100% mint Milano form and provide an elite coverage linebacker behind Sanders and Oliver, and a linebacker who offensive lines must count for as a potential blitzer. Because in 2022, Matt Milano was the best blitzing linebacker in the NFL, recording a league-best 38.1% win rate on blitzes. If you're a regular streamer of this podcast, I'm looking at you, Trey Williams. DM me your address, brother. I'm going to hook you up with a cake in the shape of Josh Allen's cock. Then you probably know my buddy Alex Cullen. He's been on the show. He's a regular. Here comes a regular. He likes TJ Sanders as a pass rusher more than he ever liked Ed. And I think Alex is a smart dude. I think he knows ball. Not in that way. Get your head out of the gutter. But the Cover 1 guys exhibited a lot of confidence in Sanders' NFL readiness in their film room breakdown. Obviously, Brandon Beane thinks Sanders is pretty damn good considering the considerable trade up to get him with the 41st overall pick, and is quoted as saying that he drafted Sanders specifically to play alongside, not behind, Ed Oliver. And I, who am a lifelong diehard Bills fan who has been learning to study film like a professional through my enrollment in the Scouting Academy, think TJ Sanders profiles as a potential game wrecker, and a potential game wrecker who is the ideal co-pilot for Ed Oliver on the interior. Both Oliver and Sanders have film that shows them using their superior athletic traits, namely agility, explosion, and speed, to consistently beat interior offensive linemen to get upfield. And both Oliver and Sanders have film that shows them using their strong lower halves in Congress with really good knee bend and hand technique to hold up against double teams, or, again, tap those athletic traits to split them. And both Oliver and Sanders have film that shows them converting speed to power and knocking guards and centers. Looking at you, Frank Ragnow. May Ed Oliver be the first to say farewell on their asses. And if you listen to Joe Marino earlier this week talk about how he hopes, and I think expects, that Bobby Babich will dial up significantly more stunts this season than last season, then both Sanders and Oliver will be given runways from which to launch those speed-to-power techniques with some more than insignificant frequency. In summation, Ed and TJ individually are very good defensive tackles who are both particularly adept at getting into the backfield. Kind of what you're looking for if you're staffing a 4-3 front. A healthy Matt Milano and a day-one ready Maxwell Hairston should give Oliver and Sanders an extra half second or full second to get home. And so I stand firmly, for the moment, by the prediction that Ed, Oliver, and TJ Sanders will combine for 14.5 sacks, 81 total tackles, and 18 tackles for loss, while combining to be on the field for northward of 1,200 defensive snaps. You know, I set out to make the episodes in this series on my top 10 most important Buffalo Bills 15 to 20 minutes each. And while I succeeded in doing so in episode 1, in which I delivered a tour de force on why Josh, Milano, and Taron Johnson were the first, second, and third most important players, I've now spent about 45 minutes talking about just TJ Sanders. So I really hope I'm not totally whiffing on my projection of this guy. I'll tell you what, if I wind up being dead wrong about TJ Sanders, I'll bake you all cookies in the shape of my cock. Hope you have mammoth-sized mailboxes. I'll tell you why Spencer Brown and Dion Dawkins are my 5th and 6th most important Buffalo Bills vis-a-vis the team's success in 2025 after this. Musical intro. Spencer Brown is my 5th most important player to the Bills' 2025 success, and Dion Dawkins is my 6th. If you wanted to sell me on either one of these guys being 2nd most important, you could set your price about as low as you want, because These offensive tackles of ours are among the very best in the league. Pick your favorite pithy statement about how football is won in the trenches or is a game played by big men, and you'll also be putting down something I'm happy to pick up. The reason I have these two, Brown and Dawkins, ranked 5th and 6th respectively, is because I think Josh is that good. And as I laid out in the inaugural episode of this series, the moment I put Josh at the top of the 10 most important Bills list, all of the contributions from the players who follow Josh can be viewed as kind of cherries on top. That is, Josh is so awesome that he gives us a fighting chance to win any game we play. So, could Josh keep us in a game against the Eagles without Brown and Dawkins? I kind of think so. And that's why, because Josh is such a rare talent and uses that talent to give the Bills a chance to win any game they play, I found that the 3 most important players after Josh had to be defensive players. Does that make enough sense? Whatever. This is all just for fun anyway, ain't it? Football's just a game, folks. Oh, but it is a game. She kidnapped herself. What was I saying? Oh, yeah, that. Since Josh makes enough plays on offense to keep us in any game, then I think Matt Milano, Taron Johnson, and TJ Sanders have the capacity to make enough plays on defense to win us more games than we lose. And now I come to why Brown and Dawkins keep Josh clean enough to make even more plays and blast open enough holes in the run game to support one of the league's most balanced offensive attacks. Only 3 teams, actually, Green Bay, Baltimore, and Philadelphia, ran the ball more than the Bills did in 2024, by the way. And our Bills had the second most balanced run-to-pass ratio, just 5/100ths of a point behind Green Bay for closest to a 50-50 split in the league. The Packers ran the ball 49.31% of the time, and we ran the ball 50.74% of the time. Back to Brown and Dawkins, and to start with their work in pass protection. Among offensive tackles who played at least 600 snaps in pass protection in 2024, only the Buccaneers, Tristan Wirfs, and the Texans, now Washington Commanders' Laramie Tunsil, allowed fewer pressures than Spencer Brown's 26, and only Wirfs, Tunsil, and the Bears' Matt Pryor allowed fewer pressures than Dawkins' 28. I watched all of the 54 pressures Brown and Dawkins combined to allow, and while I agree with the statisticians on the majority of them, both Dawkins and Brown had a couple of pressures counted against their respective totals that I found to be a little bogus. My favorite of these bogus counted pressures came late in the 4th quarter during the Bills' Week 14 matchup with the Rams when Dion Dawkins executed a sort of snatch trap on the back of Jared Verse's head and sent the rookie into a perfect and complete somersault with its terminus at Josh's feet. Anyway, as a tackle tandem, Brown and Dawkins are 5th best in the league at keeping pass rushers away from their QB. The Buccaneers duo of Tristan Wirfs and Luke Godecki combined to allow 31 total pressures in 2024. The Eagles' tandem of Lane Johnson and Jordan Mailata allowed 36 pressures. The Colts' Bernard Raymond and Braden Smith allowed 50 pressures. The Rams' Alaric Jackson and Rob Havenstein allowed 52, and our Bills' Dion Dawkins and Spencer Brown allowed 54 pressures in 2024. They both diagnose stunts at an elite level. Against the 183 stunts that Dawkins faced in 2024, he only allowed a pressure within 2.5 seconds 16 times. Tampa's Tristan Wirfs, who was statistically the league's best pass-blocking left tackle, had almost identical numbers against stunts, allowing 14 pressures within the first 2.5 seconds of a play against 180 stunts. Spencer Brown is in lockstep with both Dawkins and Wirfs, allowing just 16 pressures within the first 2.5 seconds of a play against 178 stunts, a statistical rate which positions Spencer Brown about 1 percentage point better than Philadelphia's Lance Johnson, who is, statistically speaking, the best pass-protecting right tackle in the game. When you watch Dawkins and Brown in the run game, you understand why so many in Bills Mafia wouldn't shed too many tears seeing James Cook get replaced by Ray Davis or Ty Johnson or any halfway decent running back. And that's not a knock on James Cook. I don't think Bills fans and pundits place a high enough value on Cook's home run hitting prowess, but I'm only giving Dawkins and Brown their due as true road graders who regularly displace defensive ends and exhibit elite ability to get to the second level, where they are both downright vicious and also technical, consistently rooting out and maintaining blocks way down the field on linebackers and DBs. Ergo, Ray Davis, Ty Johnson, decent running back X would produce well behind the Bills' offensive line. As I've mentioned at the top of this edition of Bills, this list I'm delivering to you in episodic parcels, which of course is in response to Joe Marino's annual Top 10 Most Important Buffalo Bills list, is 2 parts opinionated truth and 1 part opinionated clickbait to distinguish myself from content creators who might have more obvious rankings. And I say that because I have put our right tackle, Spencer Brown, a spot ahead of our left tackle, Dion Dawkins, because I'm being 2 parts serious and 1 part clickbaity. Trying to feed my family, Bills Mafia. Rate, share, and subscribe. We heard me? As for my serious, warm take, as opposed to a hot take, get it? My serious, that is not clickbaity, warm take on why Brown is ever so slightly more important to the Bills' 2025 success is because of a compilation that the Cover 1 team put out of Spencer Brown maintaining pass protection from the hash all the way out to the sideline as Josh rolls out in one of his many improvisational hallmarks. It's really quite unique how Brown has a feel for where his quarterback is as he looks to buy time, something Josh does predominantly by rolling right, that is, to Spencer Brown's side of the field. It's one of the more challenging things for a lineman to do, and a skill that one doesn't hear mentioned often. Josh is the best in football at evading sacks, escaping 91% of pressures in 2024. Of course, that is a Josh Allen stat, but it's also a Spencer Brown stat. When Josh rolled right last season, which he did 76 times, 13% of dropbacks, he was sacked 0 times. He wasn't sacked a single time. That's not just luck, and that's not just Josh being Josh. That's also Josh's right tackle, Spencer Brown, maintaining his block on a defensive end or chipping a late blitzing linebacker well beyond the tackle box and for upwards of 4, 5, 6 seconds. Now, this phenomenon of Brown blocking out to the sideline didn't exactly happen 100 times last year. Really, only a handful of times. But among those handful of times was Josh's alley-oop to Keon Coleman in the back of the end zone against the Jets. Watch Spencer Brown on that play transition from pass protection to ostensibly a lead blocker, knocking Will McDonald off balance and then pancaking Chuck Clark to give Josh just enough time to get the touchdown pass off. And watch Spencer on one of the few highlight plays from that disaster in Baltimore when Josh rolls out to his right and finds Khalil 40 yards downfield. The Bills' right tackle is a little more important than most teams' right tackle in pass protection because Josh rolls out to his right more frequently than any other quarterback. I also put Spencer ahead of Dion. I reiterate, mostly semantically, mostly selfishly, but not entirely semantically, not entirely selfishly, because of his value as a run blocker at the second and even third level. PFF has this AI-powered statistic they call key plays. That's defined as a specific play within a game that PFF's Key Insights tool identifies as having a significant impact on the game's outcome or a player's performance. Spencer had 212 PFF key plays on run plays in 2024, while Dion had 158. So, as we consider an MVP quarterback who likes to roll to his right, and as we envision a future of this team that might no longer have a running back in James Cook, who's the first Bills running back to record back-to-back 1,000-yard rushing seasons since LaShawn McCoy, we therein have two reasonable enough arguments to position Spencer Brown a spot ahead of Dion Dawkins in these rankings. And so, we've finally, after 3 episodes in this top 10 most important Buffalo Bills series, crossed midfield. Josh Allen is first most important, shocker, followed by Matt Milano, Taron Johnson, TJ Sanders, Spencer Brown, and Dion Dawkins. That's 6. We're over midfield. The race is nearly run. Next week, I'll prattle on about why Terrel Bernard is my 7th most important Buffalo Bill and why Landon Jackson, another rookie, is my 8th most important Buffalo Bill if we're interested in going 20-0 in 2025. And so, if you see me wearing a Bills hat, because I'm always wearing a Bills hat, raise a fist in the air and say, "Go Bills." And I'll raise my fist in the air in return and say to you, "Go Bills, go Bills, go Bills, Bills, Bills."